Welcome to the Mystic Access Podcast, where the magic is in motion.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to this bonus episode of the Mystic Access Podcast. As some of you know, one of my previous lives, I worked with Mike May at the Sendero Group. He just released an episode on his podcast where he remembers what the Sendero team was like. Shows us what it was like at the time with the team members. And this was 20 years ago. So here is the bonus episode.
Wait, walk sign is on to cross Russell Boulevard. 14.
Welcome to The People Make the Places, Mike May and Friends, episode 23, July 2026, celebrating the people who made Sendero Group the premier developer and promoter of accessible GPS. We often hear the expression, it takes a village. I am the one who usually receives the accolades for accessible GPS. This is the story of the Sendero Village team who leveraged me and who had their own contribution to the company and to creating a brand new product category, accessible GPS. When I started Sendero in 1999, I hired a part-time college student, Kim Burgess, subsequently Kim Casey. I'll never forget when I went out of town and returned to find a note in Braille from her. She took the initiative to learn some Braille to leave me a Braille note. This was characteristic of Kim's versatile abilities. She was brilliant and beautiful in so many ways. Whatever I threw at her, she excelled at, from administrative work to testing GPS to attending conferences with and without me. Prior to starting Sendero, I worked with Charles Lapierre at Arkenstone, now called Benetech. He had worked on accessible GPS as a grad student project in Canada before moving to California. He continued with Arkenstone while working part-time with Sendero on our first products. He was co-founder and CTO. He joined Sendero full-time in 2006. He somehow accomplished the work of 5 engineers, all in one employee. Kim and Charles were key to getting Sendero Group off the ground. Sherry Harding was someone I had worked with since 1982. She became the company accountant from her hilltop ranch in Ashland, Oregon. Several others came and went along the way. This episode will focus on key team members who are part of the Sendero blog we wrote from 1997 to 2018. My clone voice will read most of the stories in addition to AI voices for Jamie and Kim. I will comment between the stories organized from 2006 to 2013, starting with Chris Nova of Mystic Access fame. Chris, Gil, and Carl became the core Sendero tech team and also played a key role as blind testers. Other episodes have focused on the Sendero Wayfund trips. Here is Chris writing about one of those trips in episode 10.
From Buffalo to San Francisco, Saturday, August 12th, 2006, by Chris Grabowski. I attended Wayfund 2006. I was not sure what to expect. The only sure thing was that 30 people and I were doing things in a strange city that we had never seen before. I started my adventure in the airport where I met up with 3 other participants. We gathered our luggage and then took a ride on the Bay Area Rapid Transit to meet up with the rest of the group for the first leg of the trip to Enchanted Hills Camp in Napa. The next day, 13 people met at 6:15 a.m. to use our Braille GPS devices to create a manual route to a destination called Sunrise Hill. It felt like we were climbing up to the sun. After breakfast, we broke into groups and were showing each other how we use our GPS units by creating manual routes. It was fun. Later that day, we used the GPS for a geocache game. We had to find Sendero Group balloons that were hidden around the camp. I had a great time this year and have met some very special people who I would not have met if it wasn't for this event.
Hi, everybody. My name is Chris Nova. In my Sendero days, I used to be Chris Grabowski. If you hear any references to that name, that is the person that I became. So I worked with Mike from 2006 to 2013. Actually, I worked with Mike a lot longer than that as a beta tester for the Braille Note GPS product. As a matter of fact, I was one of the first people that bought it sight unseen in CSUN 2002. It was great. I remember seeing Mike and he said, well, what did you think of the outdoor demonstrations? And I'm like, I don't know. I just bought it. that was kind of fun. Some of the things that I remember was going places, meeting people, doing things that I would never have dreamed possible had it have not been for the GPS and the access to location information. While I was at Sendero, I met a lot of cool people, which I still keep in touch with to this day. Since I left Sendero, I started Mystic Access, which is a company that creates audio tutorials, and we have a bi-weekly podcast where we talk about what it's like to be visually impaired and assistive technology, also including some form of GPS. So I'm still a GPS user to this day. Take it everywhere. Can't live without it. After that, I married my best friend, Kim, and we changed our name, as I stated before. We decided to create a name of our choosing instead of using each other's names or staying the same. But going back to the days of Sendero, I remember going off to Canada and way fun and meeting all kinds of interesting people, getting lost and unlost. And it was a journey for me personally, because had you have told me to do that 4 years or 5 years before I started working with Mike and getting the Braille Note GPS, I would have told you that it wasn't possible for me. So I grew a lot in those time that I worked with Sendero. Had I to do it over again, I would do it in a minute. Thank you for listening.
Charles and I went on a couple of sales trips together while taking the opportunity to test the Sendero products in various countries like Switzerland, Germany, Denmark, Spain, and Poland. Saturday, December 9th, 2006, Europe, finding one's way. For those of us using GPS, we get used to finding one's way in many different circumstances. I try not to take this for granted. Today was a time I really appreciated the technology and O&M skills to go along with it. Charles and I are staying in an apartment in the Swiss mountain village of Bullet. We had dinner with friends last night in a nearby hamlet of Les Ras. Rather than having our friends pick us up this morning, we decided to walk to their chalet. We had marked it the night before, so off we went, following a pedestrian route on narrow mountain roads, slushy with new snow. As the fog lifted, Charles commented on the incredible views over the valley and to Lake Neuchâtel far below. We were tempted at one point to go cross-country to the chalet when we were told it was just 400 feet away, but our route called for us to continue a half-mile further up the road before doubling back. We took the safe but longer route. We only made one slight wrong turn down someone's driveway before arriving at the chalet. I don't think any right-minded, sighted person would have attempted this walk without a map and good directions. It was a piece of cake for us with the Sendero GPS and a wonderful morning walk as well. Our friends were sure impressed when they came downstairs to find the coffee already on. Friday, December 8th, 2006, Europe, Mike, and Charles. GPS on trains. It drives me nuts when the GPS receiver will not pick up through a train window. These windows are tinted many times and the signal is blocked. We did find that you could get a signal in the place between cars, as there is an accordion material there that the signals penetrate. On our extensive trip through Europe, most trains have blocked the signals, but a couple in Spain had clear windows. Otherwise, I would just go to the place where the cars connect and check on my next destination if I couldn't understand the announcements. Today alone, we have been on 4 different trains between Heidelberg, Germany, and Yverdon, Switzerland. Even when I can't get a signal, I use the virtual explore mode to place myself at the stations as they are announced. This has been extremely helpful since almost all the train stations are listed in the POI database. Facts about Poznan latitude 52 degrees 24 minutes 27.3900. North longitude 16 degrees 55 minutes 27.7800 east.
My name is Charles Lapierre. I was the CTO of Sendero Group and co-creator of all our Sendero GPS-based products. Over a decade later, I am now the principal accessibility and content quality architect at Benetech, where I help write accessibility standards and help book publishers create born accessible books with our global certified accessible program. I'm married to my wife, Teresa, a labor and delivery nurse for over 25 years. I have two beautiful daughters, Jose, an associate manager at a freight brokerage company, Priority One, and my youngest daughter, Julia, who is going to San Jose State for clinical psychology. Listening to these stories brings back so many fond memories. Mike was a pioneer in so many ways, but had the foresight to record these adventures with not only a written history through our blog posts, but an audio history recording our voices as we boldly explored without fear. Hearing the echoes of our Sendero team brings me back in time. We were all so young. Kim, Sherry, Gil, Carl, Chris, Mike, and I were a family. We each had our roles. I remember so many early mornings where I would have an epiphany on how to fix something and send out an alpha version to Chris, Gil, and Carl to test before Mike even got up and had his morning coffee. The way fun events, I believe, was what made Sendero truly special. We got to see some amazing places and share our passion for independent navigation and exploration with our global family. I personally loved watching everyone use our products and would geek out with Bob and Gil and Chris and others on how to make it even better. As an engineer, it is incredibly valuable and humbling to watch someone use your product for the first time and feel their excitement as they can independently press a button or have the system automatically announce what street address they're at or what shop is nearby or guide them to where they want to go. Not only would I troubleshoot issues that would periodically come up, but I would watch and listen to what they loved as well as what they found frustrating about the technology. Sometimes I would even go back to my hotel room and fix something for our alpha testers to install and test during the event. I am forever honored to have played my part in the pioneering history of accessible navigation. As you travel your own roads, and turn at key waypoints along the way, continue straight, and ultimately arrived at destination.
Here is the voice of Gil Lutz, who began doing tech support for Sendero in his 70s. His past testing experience included racing cars over 175 miles per hour. Gil was a vegetarian when it wasn't fashionable, an avid walker and dog user from Pilot. He was one of the first purchasers of the Sendero GPS Talk Alpha units in 2000.
This is one of the true finds in Vancouver. The geocaching group is standing in front of, now this may sound peculiar, but it's a public restroom by one of the geocaches. That's one of the normally coin-operated restrooms that is fully electronic, cleans itself after anybody uses it, and it's free. This is unbelievable. Our test driver, Sandy, went in and actually managed to get out. There's even a hand wash and dry inside. And when you close it, you can't get in for a while because there's a sign that she says reads on the front, cleaning cycle, and you can hear it cleaning it inside. Now, is that amazing? Now, for any of you people who would be back in this park and want to go geocaching, we can tell you where it is, but you're going to have to ask.
I am a San Francisco Giants and athletics baseball fan. However, there is nothing quite like the aura and history of attending a game at Wrigley Field, which I did with Jamie Gill and the author of Crashing Through, Robert Kurson, who got us invited into the Cubs dugout with its peeling paint and storied history. At one point, we were surrounded by 4 World Series ring wearers. Jamie is an avid Angels fan.
Thursday, July 24th, 2008, Jamie Adams. Go Cubs, go. As an avid baseball fan, I have a goal to go to all of the Major League Baseball stadiums. One that was very high on my list is Wrigley Field, so I was so excited to find out that I was going to the game while in Chicago for the AER National Conference. On Thursday night, Mike, Robert Kurson, Gil, and I went to the game. We had the opportunity to sit in Derek Lee's seat, the first baseman for the Cubs. Mike and Robert went to the game early and got to sit in the dugout and talk to Derek and some of the other players for the Cubs. It was a perfect night for baseball, and our seats were right behind home plate. One thing that really impressed me about Wrigley Field was the die-hard fans. There was not an empty seat in the stadium, and the fans did not leave until the very end of the game. The Cubs beat the Florida Marlins 6-3, followed by their victory song, Go Cubs Go. Hey Chicago, what do you say the Cubs are gonna win today? Go Cubs Go. You would have thought that the Cubs had just won the World Series with how excited the fans were after one victory. Outside of the stadium, it was hard to get a taxi because the streets were flooded with people high-fiving each other and singing as the local bars all played the victory song. I had a great time as a Cubs fan for the night, and now I can check off Wrigley Field on my list of stadiums with hope that I will go back soon.
My name is Jamie Murty, and I am currently a teacher for students with visual impairments and an orientation and mobility specialist in Southern California. I have been at my current job in the school district for the past 15 years. Outside of work, I keep busy with my husband and 2 young boys who love playing baseball and other sports as well. My journey into this field began when I was a student at UC Davis and met Mike. After graduation, I started working for Sendero Group. I always thought I wanted to be a teacher, and once I started meeting other people with visual impairments, I knew that I had found the field where I belonged. While working for Sendero Group, I had the privilege of meeting so many incredible people at conferences as well as travel adventures called Wayfun trips. One trip that stands out in particular was our Vancouver and Victoria trip. On these trips, we encouraged participants to get out into unfamiliar environments and use the GPS technology to navigate. I watched individuals step outside their comfort zones, explore new cities, get lost, and ultimately find their way. At a time when accessible navigation technology was still developing, our GPS gave people greater confidence to travel independently, explore new places, and get environmental information on their own terms. As a young professional at the time, those experiences influenced my work when I began teaching. One of my orientation and mobility instructors told the class that to be the best teacher we could possibly be, we had to truly believe that people with visual impairments could be independent. During those Sendero trips, I saw independence in action. Working for Sendero Group allowed me to experience it firsthand, and now I do my best to push my students to be as independent as they can individually be. Looking back, Sendero Group gave me much more than a job. It introduced me to a community of remarkable people whose confidence, resilience, and independence helped shape the educator I am today.
One of my favorite conferences is the World Blind Union. I've been to several, including Montreal, Thailand, and Sweden. Jamie represented Sendero at the WBU in Geneva, along with Sherry's daughter, Vive.
Tuesday, August 19, 2008, by Jamie Adams Murty, World Blind Union Conference, Geneva, Switzerland. Vive and I arrived in Geneva on Monday without any airplane delays. We spent our first day getting situated and touring around Geneva. Our hotel is located in a very central location, next to the train station, many restaurants, and the beautiful lake. Despite being tired from our long trip, we decided to take a long walk around the lake and the surrounding area. We walked up 150 stairs in the Saint-Pierre Cathedral, where the views were breathtaking. It was a great way to get a first impression of the city. On Tuesday, we attended the conference and listened to the presentation of regional reports, where we learned about current issues in blindness throughout the world. Story 110. Wednesday, August 20th, 2008, Jamie Adams. A sightseeing we will go. Chateau de Chillon. Today, Vieve and I traveled to the Chillon Castle. It was about an hour-and-a-half train ride with great views of the lake and the vineyards. I used the GPS to set a replay and determine which cities we were traveling through and at what speed. The castle was beautiful, and we spent about 2 hours exploring the different rooms and courtyard. The castle was built in the 1100s and was built along the cliffs of Lake Geneva. On our way back, we stopped in Lausanne where we had a nice lunch along the lake. Today was our day to ourselves to sightsee, and tomorrow begins the exhibit. We are both having a great time and want to come back to Switzerland soon to do more sightseeing.
The Sendero team celebrated its 10-year anniversary at my former wife's family house on Fallen Leaf Lake near South Lake Tahoe, across the lake from Mount Talac. This happened to be the house for the scene in the mountains in the movie The Bodyguard with Kevin Costner and Whitney Houston. It was also used in City of Angels with Nicolas Cage and Meg Ryan. It was quite the place for water skiing, windsurfing, hiking, live music, good food and camaraderie, as well as dreaming big dreams. Sunday, October 25th, 2009. Sendero celebrates 10 years. The The Sendero team, with over 50 years of combined experience, celebrates the technology it has created over the past 10 years. Some have been there from the start, some recently welcomed to the team. We all agreed that there could not have been a better setting to meet and explore, enveloped in the smell of pine trees and sagebrush, the sound of the quaking aspens, gentle waves of the lake, and the occasional bird speaking its mind. We spent the weekend reminiscing, planning, and geocaching. Fallen Leaf Lake, near Lake Tahoe, 6,400 feet in elevation, latitude 38.898721 north, longitude minus 120.055815 west. Gil at the White House. Now, in my clone voice, reading Gil's entry for this momentous occasion. Monday, July 26, 2010, 20th Anniversary ADA Celebration, Washington, D.C., by Gil Lutz. I was honored to receive an invitation to visit Washington, D.C. and the White House on July 26th to attend the 20th Anniversary celebration of the signing of the ADA. This turned out not only to allow me to be a witness to history, but to go on a GPS adventure. The celebration was held on the south lawn of the White House in front of the curved portal with the Truman balcony that has been an important backdrop for many historical events. Because it was an outdoor event, a rain date was scheduled for the 27th. This added to our adventure by allowing us an extra day to explore. More on this later. The gates opened at 3:30 p.m. for a 5:15 p.m. event start. The participants lined up outside of the gate where our credentials would be checked and rechecked before we were allowed to enter the White House grounds. Because of the wide diversity of people attending, the interaction between the waiting guests was a buzz of exchanges of names, work experience, and disability information. When the gates opened, we proceeded through another credential check, then onto a security screening, much like going through an airport security check. I had used my trusty Empower voice note and Sendero GPS to navigate to the gate. From here, I would have been on my own, but was fortunate to have met a new friend, Yo B from DARS in Austin, Texas. Yo was a welcome and excellent sighted guide as she assisted me to the area of the festivities on the lawn of the White House. She also took the pictures included here. Yes, I did create a user POI at the location of the celebration. Multiple rows of chairs had been set up in front of the balconies facing a ground level platform and podium. To add to the access to the celebration, I was given a receiver to listen to an excellent audio description of the events as they took place. Hear the archived stream of the ceremony or download the audio file. The festivities were capped off by President Obama announcing a major update to the ADA Act, and as a complete surprise to everyone there, signed an executive order that rewrites the hiring practices within the federal government to raise the number of employees to the level of people with disabilities in the general population. It also affects businesses that do business with the government. Quite a day. Because the events took place as planned without the need of the rain date, Evie, my furry Ferrari, and I had an extra day to adventure in Washington before catching our flight. If any of you have ever traveled in Washington, D.C., you know that none of the streets run in nice, neat, navigable patterns. They cross each other at odd angles, so it's very easy to end up on a new street that you weren't intending to be on. Here's where the GPS was a real friend and savior. We started the day by going to the National Air and Space Museum, where I was able to arrange a guided tour by one of the welcome aides. We toured the museum for over 2 hours, and it was an inspiring and interesting experience. After this, we navigated back to the hotel for a chance to freshen up and relax a bit. Since we still had a lot of time left, we decided to adventure on foot, starting from the hotel and tour historic D.C. with Evie and my trusty GPS. We meandered through the Georgetown area, downtown D.C., and the neighborhoods surrounding the area. We found a European-style sidewalk cafe/coffee shop and spent some time talking to some very interesting locals who were also enjoying a breakout on the nice day. I'd been told about an interesting seafood restaurant near the hotel, so on the way back, we set it as a destination and walked to it like a native. The meal was excellent, which I ate outside, and a perfect end to our adventurous day. Needless to say, my GPS made this adventure much easier and meaningful. What else can I say? Here is an AI voice reading Kim's story about Spain.
Tuesday, October 12th, 2010, Kim Casey, Sevilla highlights. I started my trip early Wednesday morning and arrived in Sevilla Thursday afternoon. Crazy how you lose a day and a half with flights, layovers, and time changes. Just to avoid the jet lag, I decided to keep moving, so after settling in at the hotel, I headed out to the Aegis conference. It was only a 5-minute walk from the hotel in the Engineers building at the University of Sevilla. There were still classes going on, so there were students as well as conference attendees. Only in Spain would you see a student enjoying a beer in between classes. The conference exhibits were in the main courtyard when you first entered the building. Most were universities or research organizations. Vodafone was there, but I heard from them right before my presentation on Friday. The focus of the presentations was to encourage manufacturers to make the technology accessible from the ground up, or at least give engineers low-level access so that we can modify the user interface to suit our needs. All my memories of Spain flooded back in once I hit the streets after my presentation on Friday. I basically walked from one end to another and meandered everywhere else. Strangely enough, only my calves were sore, probably from walking carefully on the cobblestones. On Saturday, I went to the Alcazar. The details in Moorish architecture are mind-blowing. You could sit all day and study just one archway and still not see all the intricate details. Would be a tactile field day as well. And explored around the plaza with the cathedral and La Giralda. I found my favorite restaurant again, San Marcos, best Italian food ever. I even fit in some shopping in the commercial district. Oh yeah, and it rained off and on all day. At one point, I was huddled under a sun umbrella enjoying our tapas while the storm, equivalent to a North Carolina downpour, raged on. Hilarious. On Sunday, I walked to the Plaza de España, which is a huge half-circle bordered by tiled alcoves, each representing a different province of Spain. In the center is a large fountain, was under construction. It is right next to a Maria Luisa park, so the walking was definitely scenic. Then I spent the rest of the day going from place to place, just trying to soak up the Spanish culture. Café con leche, sangria, manchego cheese, olives, listening to Spaniards constantly talk, the music, discovered a new band, Alice. Such a good time.
Hello, this is Kim Casey. Since working for Sendero, I really haven't changed my career path. With Sendero, I was working to bring accessible navigation and independent travel tools to the general public. Now I'm working for a company that specializes in everything accessibility. So I was lucky enough, Mike introduced me to a company in North Carolina called LC Industries, and we later formed a smaller company called Abler. And we do everything from helping companies get their websites accessible to changing their internal hiring process to helping people or training people so that they can get the skills to get the jobs that they want, to training employers on what it's like to hire somebody with a disability. So both careers have been extremely fulfilling. I'm really happy to have entered into this space at all. The one thing that really struck me when I was listening to the Sendero blogs was the excitement in everyone's voice. You can hear it on every trip. You can hear it from everyone. We had such a great community of people who were just these intrepid travelers and experiencing all these first-time events. So first time taking the bus alone, first time traveling in a new city. And, you know, the fearlessness that goes with that because of the power that the information gives you. It was just, it's electric, and it'll be an unforgettable experience for me forever. So working with the Sendero team was also a very unique experience because we were always that company that people would say, oh, I had no idea you guys were so small that there were only, I think at the most there was only 10 of us. So we had so many people working, we had Charles Lapierre creating the software, coordinating with anyone else who could help us to bring it to different platforms. We had Mike going here, there, and everywhere, raising awareness and also testing the software, making sure that it was the best tool for the largest amount of people. We had testers, technical support, Gil Lutz and Christopher Grabowski, now Nova. Everybody had such a huge role, and, we all played a part in bringing this technology to as many people as possible. I think being part of that, especially since I started working for Sendero at such a young age, and then, spending a good 20 years of my career there, it's just a life-changing experience where you get to see so many people working together so wonderfully and creating a product that is just changing lives. So just some reminiscence from the past. That's my story.
Two of my favorite cities in Europe are Barcelona and Dublin, where I have now been a half dozen times. It is fun to experience my digital footprints through the Sendero user points of interest. Check out episode 3 for the way fun trip to Ireland. Friday, October 7th, 2011, Mike, after 7 years back in Dublin. I had the pleasure today of presenting to the National Council of the Blind in Dublin, Ireland. I can't believe it has been 7 years since the Sendero Way Fun event in Ireland and Scotland. I have just read over the Way Fun blog for this event. It is fun to run across user points we created back in 2004. I actually have points here going back to 1995. The oldest pub in Dublin is still the oldest pub, the Brazen Head. I couldn't find the Zosimus walking tour. The people are still lively and friendly. It has been such a treat to navigate from a completely different hotel with only sighted assistance when reaching that final frustrating 50 feet. I have been to meetings, restaurant, and tour locations through the use of the PK GPS and Sendero maps. Pretty darn amazing. I met Katie on a short, cramped flight from San Francisco to Sacramento. My seatmate did not want to sit next to my dog. Katie quickly spoke up and said she would be honored to sit with us. I soon learned that she worked for HP, that she had been in the Coast Guard with a host of other talents. I told her about what Sendero was doing, and she said she wished she could do something interesting like that. We exchanged contact information, and next thing you know, she was working for Sendero. Tuesday, October 2nd, 2012, the joy of exploration. The fun aspects of exploring with GPS come in many varied ways. Today at the O&M conference here in Richmond, Katie and I did 2 lectures in the hotel and 2 walkabout sessions with the O&M instructors. The fun part is seeing how the folks start to have the lights go on and picturing how this GPS would work for their students. My last group was a bit wild, quite chatty, and not really into following the plan I outlined for them. Instead, we went in search of a folklore center quite a ways away. It turned out to be closed, but the GPS guided us right to the door. I'd warned them not to expect this fun when it actually happens. On the way back to the hotel, we came across a bunch of people on the sidewalk, and I was informed this was an Obama campaign center. We stopped and chatted with the folks who wanted us to take lawn signs, not too practical to post at our hotel rooms or to carry on an airplane. One gal was trying to get by us, but she was afraid of my seeing eye dog. Her colleagues teased her, saying, "It's a service dog. Don't be a fraidy cat." She finally slipped by, and next thing I know, she is asking me if she can touch the dog. Very tentatively, she touches Tank. Being the chick magnet he is, he gives her a lean, and now she is in love. She asks if she can get a camera from her car to take a picture. I agree to wait, and she returns in 5 minutes to snap photos of Tank and me. Perhaps she didn't want me to feel left out, because then she says, "Would you mind if I gave you a hug?" Sure, why not? So a coincidental stop while out exploring with GPS ended up with a fun social interaction with a bunch of like-minded Obama supporters and one serious dog convert. One of my other sayings besides, "It's better to travel hopefully than to arrive," is the people make the places. Thursday, October 4th, 2012, Richmond Civil War exhibits. On Monday evening, after our GPS tours with the O&M instructors, we hooked up with some guide dog instructors in search of Civil War history exhibits. Just south of our hotel on 5th Street, we found a long pedestrian bridge with Civil War quotes written on the flooring about every 6 feet. Lucas Frank read me all the quotes. I should have captured them on the POII set for that bridge over the James River. We did grab a photo. From there, we found another long pedestrian bridge that took us to Belle Isle, where the Yankee prisoners were kept captive. There are quite a few monuments and plaques in the area. Definitely worth exploring another time. Charles and I began our Europe trip with a mini Way Fun event in England. Wednesday, January 16th, 2013. As Charles and I traveled from Heathrow Airport to Milton Keynes, we came across a number of user points or footprints, as I like to call them, from PB. Thanks for those. We have added some of our own, especially a restaurant in the boonies called The Birch. Snowy GPS in London. Charles and I were excited that around 10 people said they would join us here in London for some GPS exploration, including one from France and one from Holland. A few have canceled because of the snow, but sounds like others are still coming. We have had a couple days to test all of our GPS products here, including the iPhone version. We are always learning things to improve. That is one of the reasons we are looking forward to meeting some locals who can give us suggestions. We will, of course, be adding user points of interest interest. We certainly found some good spots last night. One was the Belcano restaurant where the servers also sing opera about every 15 minutes or so. They're really good, as is the food. Strangely, the restaurant was in some POI databases and not others, and one had it in the wrong location. Now we have an accurate user point right at the door. We also found a couple good piano bars with excellent music, quite loud, of course. We'll see what trouble we can get into today. Time to do a bit of virtual exploration around our hotel before the folks arrive. Saturday, January 19th, intrepid London travelers. It was pretty messy in and around London on Saturday, and I feared as people canceled because of the weather that Charles and I would be exploring the hotel and nothing more. Folks trickled in a bit late, but by 1 p.m., we had gathered a small group for lunch. We explored the local points of interest on Sendero PC maps. We then headed outside to see about the snow. It was definitely cold, but we zipped up and managed to read our braille displays without fingers being frozen. You never know in a big city how accurate things will be, but we lucked out and found a bar called the Perseverance, chosen simply because of its name. As we sipped our favorite drinks, we explored where we might go next. It took a while because we would find an interesting place and then call to find out they were closed or not what we wanted. The grazing goat sounded promising, but after talking with them, the food didn't sound as good as the name. No, there was no goat on the menu. Instead, we found a wine bar in St. Pancras Station and tasted some nice wines after a 1-mile walk and frozen feet. After that, one of our locals suggested a place called the Parcel Yard. That was hard to find until we learned there was a sign over its door saying Gate 9 3/4, which you will recognize from Harry Potter. A sixth person joined us there for a nice dinner, and we got a lot of good feedback about improvements we can make to our software. I thought everyone would bail when we said we had to get back to our hotel because of an early morning flight. Everyone but one person came along. We finally broke up around 11 p.m. Sorry, Peter and some others could not join us, but happy that the snow did not ruin the day. Now, off to D.C. for the inauguration tomorrow. I haven't been skiing for a few years at Kirkwood. The trip is about 2 hours and more than half is completely out of cell range. I like using the Seeing Eye GPS app on the iPhone at the same time as the Sendero GPS on PK in order to understand the strengths of both. Of course, the PK version has had over 10 years to mature, so it is really the benchmark for accessible GPS. On Highway 16 and 88, where there was no cell service, the iPhone would track the route as long as we didn't stray from it. I really couldn't choose a new destination, which turned out to be necessary when we got within 10 miles of Kirkwood and the road closed due to a 3-car accident. After putting chains on and driving at 10 miles an hour, we turned around. There were 3 tow trucks within 100 feet of us and 2 police cars. One was in the ditch. We had to decide, do we wait to see if the car is clear and the road opens? Do we find a hotel or do we go home? This is where the search capabilities of the Sendero GPS and Explore mode came in very handy. We had lots of time to talk about the options. It gave us something to do as we waited for the police car to be pulled out of the ditch so we could proceed back the way we came. About every 5 miles, there was another car off the road, and so we would wait again. I located a hotel about 30 miles down the road. By the time we reached it, we decided it wasn't that far to go back to Sacramento, so we did end up going home, a 6.5-hour trip that should have taken 2 hours. We did try again in the morning and made it to Kirkwood in 3 slow hours, but no major issues. It was both entertaining and useful to have GPS on this trip. Kim from Sendero was driving. She had her hands full dealing with snow and other cars, so it really was helpful that I could be the navigator. As much as I'm excited about the iPhone version coming out, when it comes to hardcore navigating, give me my PK any day. I do like having the best of both worlds, power and convenience. Many thanks for these colleagues and friends, along with dealers, customers, and early adopters of Sendero products. These are the folks who made it happen, many of whom I am privileged to remain close to. I'm so proud of them and what we created together. Sendero means pathway in Spanish. Many of us have taken the Sendero less traveled during and beyond the 19 years of the company. I'm sure you can think of the remarkable people who made your school or work life special. Many thanks to all of them and to you for listening. Stay tuned for the next episode of the People Make the Places, Mike May and Friends, the first Saturday of next month. Please follow, rate, and share.
This is Mike May, and my highlight for today way fun was finding the St. Francis of Assisi statue up on an alley.
This is Chris Grabowski, and my highlight for the day was pretty much the same as Mark's, is finding the going to the Titanic exhibition, finding out that I was one of the passengers that passed on, and finding the restaurant, and then finding our way back to the hotel using the GPS product.
Hi, this is Carl Simmons. The highlight for my day was getting back to the hotel.
My name is Gil Lutz, and the highlight of the day was really getting a beautiful feel of San Francisco with some very good friends and just having a wonderful, wonderful day.
And this is Charles Lapierre, and my highlight of the day was watching everyone use the system I designed with Mike and seeing it get everyone where they wanted to go and really explore the city on their own independently.
Say it for us once.
Arrived at destination.
Thank goodness.